Kazakhstan International Vectors program informs you about international relations, political opinions, economic solutions and social development. Land is the only source of wealth and agriculture is the only thing which multiplies it. François Quesnay, French economist. Genetics versus climate change. New varieties of plants are in demand worldwide. The noble meat is grown in Kazakhstan, more prospects for the export. How does the state help the agricultural sector? The world population is constantly growing, so does the need of each person in food. People around the world began to eat more. Today, the daily need for food is not less than 2,700 calories per person. The growing demand has led to increasing supply. Agricultural production in the world in the last 100 years has increased more than 5 times. However, the world's agricultural outputs are developed unevenly. The annual profit from agriculture in Brazil is $110 billion. In Indonesia, this figure is $127 billion. In the United States, $209 billion. The global leaders in agricultural production are India with $413 billion and China with $1,088 billion. The low level of agriculture and the lack in the own produced food can be seen in many African countries except Nigeria. The most rapidly developing industry today is in Latin America. At the same time, agriculture around the world is facing with the same problems associated with the environment. First of all, the climate change. If earlier such a problem as the precipitation did not exist, at least during the growing season for us, now it does, and in the presence of precipitation new diseases emerge. Alternation, drought and high humidity on the contrary happen, so we need to work on the stability of genotypes with a total capacity of adaptation. Here in Kazakhstan, as in the whole world, actually such a big problem exists, which will in any case remain. This problem here restricts agriculture, the development of agriculture in the total volume. Selection and genotyping processes are called upon the decision of this problem. New varieties of plants are grown in certain areas, which is called zoning, and are more resistant to weather changes. Growing these plants reduces economic risks for any farmer. But how this is manifested in the phenotype of genetics? Today, these lines of research for phenotyping are developing rapidly, meaning direct scanning of plants, their phenological development phases of the process, and how we can then manage them. These trends are now, in principle, both investigated and immediately introduced into production. Challenges for agricultural lands are also created by inefficient use of them by people, chemical pollution and soil degradation. The increase of culture of how to use the lands and the development of private farms are considered the main ways to solve this problem in the world. The main directions of development of agriculture in the future, analysts say, are the expansion of the land fund, improving the efficiency of agricultural production due to new technologies, and international cooperation and assistance to developing countries. Kazakhstan has a great potential. We have a very large number of agricultural lands which are not used today or used inefficiently, ineffectively. And here it is necessary to stimulate the entrepreneurs so they did business in this sector, so they mastered the land and increased soil fertility and grow certain cultures to the desired order to produce our own goods for consumption. Another global trend is that the consumption of animal protein in the world is growing. That is, the biggest part of the cultivated plants in future will go to feed. A country exporting meat products will be able to earn good money. We now know a lot of businessmen of Kazakhstan are importing Dutch and some other breeds of cows and other cattle which actually can be adapted to the conditions of Kazakhstan, and we see that they are really adaptable and can survive here and give a good, noble meat. So we can make it not only consumable in the local market but also fit to export. And it is now being set, and we see a great potential in this industry. According to the OECD, export opportunities of Kazakhstan in the meat are enormous. The country possesses 198 million hectares of pasture lands with low chemicalization. The state borders with 2 of the 10 major beef importing countries in the world, China and Russia. Crop production is also successfully developing in the region. Grain and flour for many years have been the main export products of Kazakhstan. Here in Kazakhstan we have such a territory, let's say agro-ecological zones, which exist also only in 3-4 other countries, for example in Canada, in North America and in Australia. The quality of grain produced in these regions is equal to quality of our grain, which production is determined by this region. The largest countries importers of grain and grain products are close to Kazakhstan. This is primarily the Middle East and North Africa. There is always a place for unconventional approach of doing business in agriculture. For example, a Swiss farmer Albert Breitenmoser decided to open a rental right on his farm. It is very similar to the idea of a cat Matroshkin in the Soviet animated film, who took the cow on the farm rent to have his own daily dose of milk. The Swiss too has decided to open his farm cows rental. Animals can be rented for temporary use to anyone who wishes, be them town people or tourists, for 1 month. All the while the cows, as they should be, are in a stable on a farm, but their temporary owner has the right to visit and milk them whenever he or she wants. Why for 10 years the agricultural production in Kazakhstan has increased by several times? How can the harvest be programmed? In the world, the international flows of funds invested in agriculture are growing, both on the part of private companies, investment funds and sovereign wealth funds. This increases the agricultural productivity and total well-being of the country. According to FAO estimations, with a low level of investments, 1 hectare of land is able to feed 0.61 men, at the intermediate level 2.1 persons, at a high level 5.05 people. For example, today the Ministry of Agriculture of Kazakhstan has approved 4 joint projects with transnational corporations. They will be implemented in the production of dairy and meat industry, as well as the processing of tomatoes. 40 more agribusiness development projects are under consideration. Partner countries of Kazakhstan are Iran, China and Russia. But private investments of farmers are paramount in the world, and they need government support programs. With regard to specific programs that are going to support SMEs which work with a field of agribusiness, I want to highlight 3 areas of the group financial instruments. The first one is when the Damu Fund puts money in banks, so that the money was given in the form of subsidized loans for business representatives, including the agricultural destination. In this direction, to date, about 928 projects of agricultural sector were supported under this line for this program. The second program of Damu Fund is related to the reduction in the cost of loans for small and medium-sized businesses, including farmers. Grants are issued under the program Business Roadmap 2020. Today, about 528 agricultural projects have received such grants. For the farmer, it is often a problem to find the collateral for the loan to the desired amount. Pledges in rural areas are often deemed illiquid by the banks. Therefore, Damu Fund has implemented a tool such as a guarantee. In these circumstances, our tool as a guarantee just comes to the aid of these entrepreneurs. We provide a guarantee by Damu line from 85% of the total cost of the loan up to 50%. Today we have 126 entrepreneurs with such projects out of 2,000 projects under the guaranteeing program. All public and the majority of private institutions in Kazakhstan consider agriculture a priority development sector. Many regions give priority to agribusiness representatives. This is necessary to ensure food security of the country. Agriculture accounts for a significant share of GDP in Kazakhstan since the 50s of the last century. There were two most intensive periods of development, in 70s, 80s and today. Half of the country's population lives in rural areas. Most of the rural population is engaged in agriculture. For 10 years, there has been a growth in GDP volume of agriculture by 3.4 times, 3,307 billion tenge for 2015. Production of crop products grew by 3.6 times and livestock by 3.1 times. The country has more than 30,000 agricultural enterprises and about the same number of farms. If 5 years ago the most advanced industry in the business sector was trade, followed by services, and only then was the agriculture, today we see that the business representatives who are working in the agri-sector are the country farms, or rather organizational and legal forms of activity that are related to agriculture. They went to the second level. Today they occupy somewhere 22% of all the subjects of their own business among small and medium-sized businesses. However, the majority of the Kazakh lands are zones of risky agriculture, the desert and semi-desert with a sharply continental climate and a lack of moisture. Scientists are called to solve the problems with land irrigation, breeding new varieties, reduction of risks for farmers. In Kazakhstan, a unique branch of science, programming the harvest, is represented. It includes above all the creation of a computer program which accumulates all possible agronomic solutions for a specific culture, and in the end the farmer or any person who is engaged in the ground, having a certain area, so to speak, setting the parameters of their field, can get a full range of agro-technical solutions for the production of a particular culture. Moreover, in a given crop mode, for example a crop of wheat, can receive the same from 20 to 100 tons per hectare. Crop production is the foundation of agriculture of Kazakhstan. The spring wheat accounts for the biggest share. Also of a high distribution of production are rice, buckwheat, barley, oats and corn. Of the other plants is possible to note potatoes, apples, melons and grapes. Now, in connection with the diversification, the production of oil began to develop, as the manufacturing industries are strong enough. Then goes the feed production for the development of fully livestock. Well, in principle, the livestock itself has started to move into the country. In total, Kazakhstan produces 70 kinds of agricultural products. The country is self-sufficient in food products by 80%, and it can provide all 100%. This requires the development of primarily of livestock and poultry industries. Akel Sarik Shimbulov is engaged in the production of chicken meat and eggs. We were the members of a grant. We received a grant in the amount of 1 million tenge. On this sum of money we acquired the incubator, and now you can watch the brooders. At the moment we are in the chicken brooder, where you can observe the full development of chickens from small to large, so to speak. It's all thanks to the support of the state. There are many risks associated with the bird's breeding. They are susceptible to many diseases, so there is a need of constant veterinary supervision and treatment. Feed should be a live balanced in protein, calcium and other nutrients. Chickens are much easier to digest food of local production. Therefore, the establishment of poultry farms involves the creation of own food production. Despite the difficulties, Akel Sarik sees great prospects for the development of poultry farming in Kazakhstan. We would like to bring to the market new patent technology for the removal of pink eggs, iodized eggs, selenium eggs. In general, the content of eggs is such that the composition itself will promote the improvement of the human body. In general, in this direction there are a lot of horizons, a lot of perspectives. Another promising poultry industry is breeding of turkeys. Today, only one factory in the South Kazakhstan region deals with it, but the demand for this meat is very high almost all over the world.